If you know what this loading screen means, congratulations, you are no longer allowed to call yourself young. But if you know where this loading screen will take you, well, I guess it's time for you to start looking at some life insurance policies. Let's see if you can picture this. It is a weekend away from school. You don't have very much money to waste on snacks and candy, but you want to make money. Why not make some money on the planet Mars? There are lots of precious ores and minerals to mine, and would you look at that? That little ore of goldium gave you $250. Wait, mining? Isn't that dangerous with a bunch of zombies and skeletons?
No, 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 no.
This is on Mars, where there is literally no one else around. While some people might associate mining with zombies riding chickens, this is the real mining game, where it only takes two dimensions for players to really feel the rush of giving up your own safety for more money. Falling to your death? Worth it for the money. Digging through lava pockets that will boil you alive? Worth it for the money. Exploding dirt? Worth it to collect those diamonds worth $100,000 each. That's right. Welcome to the game of Motherload, where anything, and I mean anything, is worth it to exchange your safety for that sweet. As always, time for some context. Now, the game Motherload, which was made by XGen Studios back in the year 2004. As always with the Flash game, you could either play directly on their website or, as what I used to do, was to go onto other Flash game websites where they would have it there. Now, of course, those developers had to eat, and so they offered a premium Goldium edition for the low price of $9.99, which gave out a few more features and new items in which you can try out. Lastly, of course, is that there is a sequel called Super Motherload, which was released in 2013 and is available to play on Steam today. Now, of course, it is a fairly different game than the one that I grew up with, and so our main focus will be, of course, on that free version back in the year 2004. Now, are you ready to risk your life for some money? I sure am. You start the game off by being dropped on the surface of Mars, which surprisingly has a layer of green grass and brown dirt. And you receive a transmission from your boss, Mr. Natus. We forgot to refuel you on the way over. Drive over to the fuel station, left, and fill her up. It's been almost impossible to hire decent miners on Mars since all the strange activities started happening around here. That's why we're willing to pay you at a premium for your services. I've given you a basic mining machine to get started with. Unfortunately, you'll be on your own from this point onward, as the settlers who were lucky enough to escape with their lives have fled to safety. However, all the shops here have been computerized, so you'll still be able to sell your minerals, fuel up, upgrade your pod, and buy special items. Remember, your job is to collect minerals and bring them back to the surface for processing. The deeper you dig, the more valuable the minerals you'll encounter. Don't forget to refuel. Good luck! Well, that was quite long-winded. Well, don't worry, the transmissions will get shorter as the game goes on. The game is pretty simple for the first parts. You'll be digging down into the ground and collect fictional minerals like ironium, bronzium, goldium, and so on. Now, of course, you'll be returning them back up to the surface to get processed and you'll get paid out. Something that players will learn very quickly is that the mining pod can only dig downwards and to the left and to the right. Now, something to note, of course, is that the game Motherload could actually qualify as a puzzle game, as we can see on this example right here. Now, there are lots of different minerals available in the game, but your pod could only collect certain items. As we can see here, those two ores of silver can be dug because it's to the left of the pod on the ground and then underneath it as well if you move over. Now, of course, in this case, that ore of iron and sadly, that very valuable piece of gold, it was unfortunately cannot be mined because you were not on the ground to be able to dig either to the left or downwards. Anything above you, you'd have to find another route to be able to collect. as the first part of Mr. Natus's message suggests, is that you will be refueling your pod quite often. And as players will learn, as the most important rule in this game is that if you do run out of gasoline, you will, and the game is over. As you dig deeper, Mr. Natus will be sending over messages congratulating you on reaching new depths. So, at the depth of 500 feet, Mr. Natus will send over this transmission. Good! I see that you're adapting well to the Martian soil. Here's a little something to help you on your way. And then he sends $1,000 directly into your account, best used in upgrades in making your mining pod better. Then later on at the 1,000 feet, and then at the 3,500 feet depths, Mr. Natus will continue to send over new messages and bonuses. Let's take a look at that last one. At the 3,500 feet depth into Mars, Mr. Natus will send the following to you. Once again, congratulations! You've made it farther than even I anticipated. Anyways, I've sent you another bonus. Watch out for natural gas pockets, they're undetectable and highly explosive. One more thing, your altimeter is only rated for a depth of around 6,000 feet. After that, you'll need to turn back. Really, it's just too dangerous. Now, something that puts the player off about these messages is that Mr. Natus will quote that you will need to ignore other transmissions and that there's exploding gas down in the depths of Mars. Now, as somewhat of an old nerd myself, it turns out that altimeters are only used to measure actual height above sea level, while on the other hand, a better term, like a mining depth gauge, will be much better as that is something that we even use today in order to measure how deep a mining shaft goes. But who cares? The boss man just gave you a sweet cash bonus, and what's not there to be scared of? As a young gamer, imagine coming across this at the depth of 1,750 feet when you get a transmission like, "The eyes! Oh my god, the eyes!" And then on top of that, at 2,500 feet, you get the very pleasant, "Is anyone there? I need help badly. I can't feel my legs. Oh god, he's coming back. Oh no, please help me. Ah!" And finally, as you reach the lowest parts of the game at negative 4,500 feet into Mars, you get this transmission. "Oh baby, this is it. I hit the Motherload." Roll credits. "I'm rich. I'm filthy rich. Hey, what the? No, it can't be. Oh God." Lots of fun for the whole family, getting to see the demise of your other coworkers as they chase their greed. But you gotta keep going to make that money. Now, there are three notable ways to make money in the game of Motherload. Of course, the first being reaching a certain depth into the game where Mr. Natus will give you some cash bonuses for reaching that depth. As we can see here, at the 500 feet mark, he will give you $1,000. At the 1,000 feet mark, he will give you $3,000. And then finally, at the 3,500 feet mark, he gives you $20,000, all wired directly into your account, mostly used to help you get further down into the depths of Mars with upgrades to your pod. Now, the second and main way of making money is of course digging down and collecting valuable ores and minerals to sell back on the surface. As you can see here, I have a whole table of the current Motherload prices of all these materials. Wow, inflation must be a real problem, as if you take a look at bronzium, which is about 88% copper and 12% tin, really just comes up to about $60 per full cubic feet masses of that material. And would you look at that? Gold is even worth less at about $250 of raw ore. Man, I looked at the raw price of gold the other day and it was about $3,200 for 1 ounce of that. Somehow, on the other side, platinum makes a lot more sense, which the current price is about that $970 mark, and a full block of ore will get you about $750 worth of material. Very interesting that inflation must be really kicking the world of Motherload in the pants, even while sending their miners to Mars. Now, on the other side, we do get the more valuable gemstones, which are found in the depths of Mars, where even here, looks like diamond has a nice price at about $100,000 for a full block of that material, while on the other hand, we have Amazonite? That's the most expensive material in the game? Is that even real? Well, let's see here. Oh, It does say that Amazonite is real, and it's a, quote, variety of potassium feldspar, and there's a mineral class of micro... Okay, settle down. I did say there was a third way of making money in this game. Now, as you dig into the deep depths of Mars, you can come across sometimes some very special relics, which, unlike ores, can actually be turned into instant cash and does not need to be processed up in the surface. As you can see here, the cheapest ones which you can find will be the dinosaur bones at $1,000, and the most expensive one will be the religious artifact, giving you $50,000 immediately when taken in. Now, of course, it doesn't make very much sense to me that people care much more about religious artifacts on Mars rather than actual evidence that dinosaurs lived on Mars, as well as the fact that somehow finding also full skeletons of Martians under the ground does not make you as much money either way. Wait a minute, I think I've seen that one on Earth before. Now, the upgrades to the game are quite similar across all the different parts in which you can improve, but to have a look here, we have these 6 different types of upgrades in which your pod can go over. First and foremost, the drill, which is pretty self-explanatory, in which if you dig faster, your life is much easier. This makes more sense as you move further down into Mars, as into those deeper levels, the dirt gets much more harder to dig through, and so the drill will make it short work. Then the hole, which will give you more health overall for the pod, making your life a lot easier where you don't have to worry about falling to your death and dying, and of course, giving you other ways to handle the hazards of digging deep inside of the planet. Next will be the engine, which of course your pod is able to fly, which the best case in using this is going to be once you're done mining and you need to get back to the surface, the engine will take you all the way up without a problem, and there you have it doing its work. Next, and arguably one of the most important, will be the fuel tank. As starting the game, you might get annoyed that you have to refuel every like 30 seconds because of the way that you have such a shabby fuel tank. But with more fuel, you get to stay down inside of your mine longer, allowing you to collect more valuable minerals. Next is going to be the radiator. A lot of new players wouldn't understand why we even care for such a thing, but it turns out it is a very good defensive upgrade, allowing you to withstand things like lava and exploding gas and things of that sort. Lastly will be the cargo bay, which, simply put, more storage, more money. So of course, the more things you can stuff inside of your mining pod each trip means you can bring back more of those things to get processed for that money. One thing to note about the cargo bay is that once you fill up your inventory with minerals and you try to mine out a new item, well, sorry about that. You just lose that new item and you keep going forward. Now, of course, there's an option if you open your inventory in the game, you can simply ditch out
Bye.
all the useless minerals and go for the more expensive ones, but that is something in which you have to manage, and of course, that cargo bay upgrade comes into play. Now, for each upgradable part, there are 6 levels in which you can purchase, the cheapest one being $750, and the most expensive one costing you $500,000. Now, of course, you just simply progress throughout the game as you go through different levels, and you'll figure out which upgrades you need at specific parts of the game. Ooh! It looks like you've taken some damage while mining. Well, go head on over to the Emendation Station 3500, where you can first repair your pod back to full health for a little bit of money. Now, over here as well is where you can buy a lot of special supplies to help you while you're mining down there. The most attractive one, of course, will be the reserve fuel tank, which by the press of a button, you can instantly fill up your fuel tank at 25 liters. Liters? We're measuring our depth in feet. Why do we? Okay, it doesn't matter. But again, you can refill your fuel immediately while you're still down and mining inside of the planet. Secondly, you can go and purchase the nano repair bots, which will repair your pod on the go, and you don't have to return back to the surface to make sure your pod doesn't blow up. Now, the next two are going to be the explosives, which come in either the dynamite form or the more expensive plastic explosives, both of which will be used to clear out stones on your way down into your mine shaft. Now, you might be wondering, stones? Why can't we just dig through that? Well, it turns out that no matter how much you start slamming onto the keyboard, the only way to remove rocks from the base game is that you have to buy one of these things to clear your way and to make sure that you can enter safely into your mining area. Now, lastly, there are the teleporters, which can take you instantly back up to the surface. Once you reach a certain level, it becomes way too tedious to try to fly up 4,000 feet. First, you have the cheap teleporter, costing you $2,000, in which it will just simply fling you up to the surface and throw you right out there without regard to your safety, most likely damaging your pod on the way up. But then, we have the Mercedes Benz of teleporters, the Matter Transporter, costing a hefty $10,000 to purchase, but will very nicely put you right there in front of the fuel station without any damage at all. But now, after all of that, you'll be experiencing exploding dirt at about 4,700 feet deep, which will indeed do a lot of damage to you if you're not prepared for it. And also, it turns out your depth meter will start to glitch out at negative 5,800 feet, and shortly afterwards, Mr. Natus will contact you in a different tone. You are violating the terms of your employment. Turn back immediately. Of course, this is exactly when you start encountering those rich minerals like diamonds and Amazonite. So of course you're going to keep digging and keep making that money. But of course, Mr. Natus will then go and reach out to you one more time. Return to the surface immediately, or you will be terminated. Uh, as in fired, which I don't really understand that. We use today the real term employment termination, which of course means that you get fired. But I guess they're trying to draw some sort of crazy line that you just might meet your end. But in any case, if you were the type to be that law abiding citizen and you turn back around immediately and you realize nothing, nothing's happening. It almost seems like the game wants you to reach the end of Mars and see what Mr. Natus will do to you. And would you look at that? The mining ends? There's no more dirt? I mean, it looks like there's something down there, but, well, if you just keep going to the right side of things, oh, there's an entrance. And you explode your last bits of your way through there, and then, ha ha ha, you fool! I told you to turn back, but we did. Now I have no choice but to kill you. You've served my factories well, but I think I'll take my machine, my money, and your pathetic life now. See you in hell. And so now you drop down into Mr. Natus's lair, which is nicely decorated with skulls and bones. Oh boy, it's time for a boss fight. Mr. Natus shows up in a big robot with a nice set of horns and hooves to go. But of course, what better way to fight your own CEO, cosplaying as the devil, than just running right at him and setting off your explosives right underneath him? And once you do that enough times, you will actually get to defeat him, and he buries himself back under the ground. Is it over? Wahala! Imbecile! You really think you can defeat me? I am the master of all evil. Behold my true form! Now you really need to lock in. It looks like Satan has entered the chat. This time you need to dodge his super heavy arm attack, as well as him opening up his chest furnace and shooting out a bouncing fireball at you. But just like before, if you send him to 0 health, he falls down, completely defeated this time. Now, of course, what better way is there to celebrate the death of your boss by taking all of the parts from his robot suits and selling them to the open market? Wow, it looks like there really is a market for those wanting the body parts of Satan. But in any case, the most expensive prize that you get to enjoy is selling a nice 250,000 shares of the Natus HI Inc., which, if we look down to each individual share, costs about $1,000. Is Netflix run by Satan? And so, after beating Mr. Natus, you get the option to save the game, which, after going through the victory screen and you load up the game again from the start, all of your upgrades are taken away, but in your inventory you get one copy of Satan's head. Wow. But it turns out that this time, if you run the game after beating it and loading it back up again, each of
Bruh.
those minerals which you dug out will now cost you half of what they normally earn, as well as going through the whole game again, this time without the cash bonuses of Mr. Natus. Now, you can do this again and again, and those minerals will give you less and less money to the point where the game basically becomes impossible. But, of course, the main takeaway of this game obviously should be is that hell is on Mars and you can kill Satan just by exploding him enough times. Well, I hope you enjoyed this exposition on one of my favorite Flash games I used to play as a kid. This game had the perfect amount of difficulty and of course giving me that rush of disregarding my own safety in the game instead of going after that greed for all the money that I can obtain. Now, thankfully, you can still play this game today, and there are speedrunners who manage to even get through the whole game entirely in less than 15 minutes, which I will also be doing on my live stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which you can tune in and let me know what you think of this game there as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next week again.